We've had the land acknowledgement, but I still want to acknowledge the traditional territories of the Indigenous people that live in around Thunder Bay. For those that don't know me, my father was born in 1920 in a house behind the mill at the Dome. I was raised in Dome-on-Domex. I was raised in the shadow of head frames. My father's mother and father came into Timmins, not to mine. They came to participate in farming, the agriculture sector. But by 1920, they were already involved in mining. I grew up very passionate about the future and proud of the past of Northern Ontario. Maybe it was because we lived in North America's richest gold sector with the mining that we had there. Maybe it might have been the hockey players that had came through. Maybe it was because as a kid that went to elementary school, there was a school atlas, quite frankly, that included all of the biggest sites, commercial sites in Canada. We had a picture of the Hollinger head frame in that booklet. We had the processing facilities in Sudbury in that booklet. We had the port facilities in Thunder Bay, in Fort William and Port Arthur. We had the pictures of the agricultural wealth in the lesser clay belt. We had the pulp and paper mills in Northwestern Ontario and in Northeastern Ontario. I was very proud of the fact that we had not just hockey players, but we had ex-governors of the bank called Gordon Thesian, Frank Gehry of agriculture, he was famous architecture. So that's where I came from. I was lucky to have a very successful mining career internationally. We settled back into Timmins, and quite frankly, I didn't like what I saw. There was a malaise in the land all across Northern Ontario. Populations were declining. There was a sense of almost doom. Timmins lost one of the world's cleanest smelters and refineries at Kidd Creek. Lost 900 jobs, and no one really cared. Nobody stood up and said, hey, this shouldn't happen. Those ores are still getting processed right now, but they go to the smelter in Horn. It's a dirty smelter. And the Kidd Creek smelter was one of the cleanest smelters in the globe, and we lost it. Earlier in the panel discussions, they said, what changed? What's the difference? Well, I'll tell you. As a man who cared about Northern Ontario, was very proud of Northern Ontario, I was disgusted when our next premier stood up and said, Northern Ontario is a wasteland. It's nothing but a wasteland. Our economy will not be defined by people that dig holes in the ground. I will tell you, folks, we dig holes in the ground, but they're world-class holes in the ground. We are the best. And Thunder Bay is going to be the center of the lithium processing facilities in North America. That's how much lithium we have here in North America. Thunder Bay, don't worry about the future of Thunder Bay. It's happening right under your feet right now. There'll be more announcements from the provincial and federal governments that will be promoting the development of the lithium as a hub right here in Thunder Bay, and that's the way it should be. We will be the hub for North American lithium processing because we've got the deposits. Frontier Lithium, probably the best lithium hard rock deposit in North America. We've got. You listened to the presentations this morning about from other lithium projects around here. It's phenomenal. Any of the problems that we have right now are simply related to the fact that we've gone from 0 to 5,000 miles an hour in about 6 years. 6 years ago, really what we talked about gold, some base metals, but that was it. We weren't talking about lithium. We weren't talking about critical minerals. We weren't talking about rare earths. Now we are. Why? Because the Premier made a $1 billion bet on mining in Northwestern Ontario. And it was a bet. The resources that stand in place right now were the same as they were shortly after the discovery of the Ring of Fire. And the Premier stood up and said, we're betting on mining in Northwestern Ontario. You couldn't have a better proponent for mining than the Premier of Ontario. And that's the truth. Thunder Bay is well poised for success. I'll say one more thing about Thunder Bay. It's the most beautiful city in the Great Lakes. It's more beautiful. It is. No one has the vistas. It doesn't matter if you're in Toronto, it doesn't matter if you're Chicago, it doesn't matter if you're Rochester or Cleveland. Take a look what you see around, when you look around here. You should be proud of it. It's world class. How is mining doing right now? We opened 2 mines this summer. It's the first time we've opened 2 mines since probably the Hemlo days. And it's no accident that those mines were opened up this year. Certainly the deposits were there. But it was also about the right partnerships. The partnerships with the First Nations community. The fact that you had, again, a ministry that wanted to see these projects to be developed. Nothing is going to happen in any air development without the partnership, the full partnerships with the Indigenous peoples. I was lucky enough to work within Waukesha Resources for a number of years, and that's the commercial entity for Waukesha First Nations. The name has changed, but I'll use the one that I'm familiar with. By the time I was finished, Waukesha First Nation had a $23 million surplus annually. Small little community. And what did they do with that? They built homes. And building homes, they celebrated building homes. Tremendous accomplishment. But quite frankly, ask yourself, was that celebration right? Every individual in this room takes it for granted that if they want access to housing, they talk to a real estate agent and their banker and a lawyer, and they go about getting their house. Getting a house in a First Nation should not depend on a handout from the federal government. That is not right. But development, working with the First Nations, allows the First Nations with self-determination. They are the author of their own destiny. Building capacity within the First Nations is incredibly important. The majority of the money that we have in the Ministry of Mines goes through the Aboriginal Participation Fund, the revenue sharing agreements, and they're all there to design to increase capacity within the First Nations. And Thunder Bay is the center of the universe in Northwestern Ontario for that type of development. It's critical to understand that. The Ring of Fire is being developed. The proponents are Webequie and Martin Falls on the EA process. We're there working with them to insist. Well, quite frankly, you know what we're doing? We're doing our best to get out of the way. We're doing our best to get out of the way. We've got some excellent people within our ministry. But ultimately, we want to eliminate red tape. We want to do things faster. We want to see the communities flourish and process and prosper. Critical minerals. We've got a critical mineral strategy in place, and we've had for a couple of years. And our lens that we see critical minerals is very simple. We're eliminating fossil fuels as a society, and we're developing the electric vehicle revolution, battery economy. We know why. You don't have to look too far to see what's happening within our society to understand exactly why that's important and how critical it is to develop these minerals. We've done a phenomenal job in attracting that type of economy into Ontario. We have attracted over $43 billion into those types of facilities into Ontario. And you have to remember what an incredible accomplishment that was. A few years ago, no one ranked Ontario as the source or potential home for those types of investment. The first thing the province had to do, of course, was set the table, eliminating taxes, encouraging business. Now we're the #1 jurisdiction to be the host and homes of that type of technology and plants, the battery technology. That is a phenomenal accomplishment that this government has accomplished. The Premier likes to talk about the fact that when he got to be a Premier, he essentially inherited a bankrupt province. They had lost 300,000 jobs. Any surprise when the Premier, the ex-Premier, says Northern Ontario is a wasteland? How do you encourage investment? How do you encourage optimism? Who's going to invest in land that's a wasteland? Who says that? Well, I'll tell you, we changed on a dime. We've created over 100,000 jobs. And what's the mining's role in this? It's, again, to develop these projects with full partnership with the Indigenous people across the North. We have got what the world needs from a critical minerals point of view, and rare earths. We have what the world wants. It's our destiny. It's an incredible thing to say, but what we are providing right now is essential to the Western democracies. When I go into Washington, they don't talk about critical minerals from a point of view of the same lens that we have. Their lens is national security. Why? Because they don't have the critical minerals. They don't have the rare earths. We have. We don't want the nickel from Indonesia. The nickel from Indonesia is financed by the Chinese. It's powered by coal, and the tailings goes right to the sea. That's a model that we left behind 150 years ago. Everybody knows there isn't a mine right now in Northern Ontario where the discharge water isn't cleaner than the intake water. That's how good we are environmentally. When I became the Minister of Mines, the first thing I had to do, that we did, was to change the Mining Act so we could get permitting faster. We looked at Cote Lake. We looked at this. I mean, I was part of the industry. 15 to 17 years to permit that project. The Indigenous communities were ready for development. I would guess probably 4 years before the final permits were given. 15 years. And what do you see at the end of that? You see 100% employment by Matawagami First Nations and Flying Post. Full employment. You see 1,600 people employed during construction. You see environmentally an organization that doesn't even need to discharge water. They do when they need to, but they don't have to. We had another presentation this morning. I think it was green metals, and they don't discharge water. We changed the Mining Act, but we didn't. There was two very important things that we didn't change. We didn't change any word associated with Ontario's world-class environmental standards, nor did we change a single word with the duty consult. So we're doing this by basically eliminating and streamlining the processes that are going to delay permitting so we get these mines quicker. Let's go back about national security. We need those metals quickly. We know that, in fact, there is a Cold War ongoing right now. There's 275,000 armed forces, U.S. troops in the U.S. Arctic. There's 375,000 armed forces in the USSR's, or the Russia's, Arctic Circle. They're in our waters and in combination and partnership with the Chinese in our islands and in our waters. We've got 235 people. 235 people. National security. Northern Ontario is the best possible partner to secure these minerals, and the U.S. needs them. And why are we the best partner? It's how we mine. It's who we partner with. The full participations with all communities in the North, all of them. That's why we're the best partner for the U.S. You see the investments that the U.S. Department of Defense is putting into projects in Northern Ontario. We've got, and there is no competition on nickel. We need every pound of nickel from every part of Northern Ontario, every pound, if we're going to be successful. Critical minerals, and talking about critical minerals lets me to talk about mining with impunity. So let's talk about gold, because it's directly related to national security. The Chinese want to have the world's best economy. They wanted to displace the U.S. as the #1 economy in the world. And what are they doing? They're the world's biggest producer of gold, and they're the biggest buyers of gold, because that currency is going to be backed by gold. Gold isn't a fiat currency. It's no surprise that gold a few weeks ago was trading at $3,250 an ounce Canadian. Most of the ounces that came out of the Porcupine were extracted at a price not more higher than $35 an ounce. 20 million ounces of the Hollinger, and they were taken out of the ground at $35 an ounce. Do you not think that there's huge potential in all of those assets that have been previously mined? Detour Lake right now is moving 80,000 tons a day of ore, and that's 160,000 tons when you talk about waste. It's a 1-to-1 ratio between that mine. And they're mining half a gram. It's 32 grams in an ounce, and they're mining a half a gram. They're doing it. It's an incredible operation. All of the mines, it's not so much that we've got the ability to produce these mines. As I said, it's how we do it. All of the mines they're very much invested in transforming their equipment into EVs. You've seen some beautiful examples right over in Arena 1 and Arena 2. Beautiful examples as they get off of diesel fuel. So the Canada Nickel, the huge nickel deposit, their fleet is going to be hydrogen. They're going to use natural gas to develop hydrogen. They're going to burn natural gas to create hydrogen. Of course, what do? You create CO2. And then you sequester CO2 with serpentine, the host rock of that ore body. It's attracting interest all across the world because you can do this. We've got the ability to do it, to produce and mine with a zero carbon footprint. That's why this mining sector is flourishing all across the north. Energy. Let's talk about energy. We've got a requirement in our grid to double the energy that's delivered into that grid. We've got 3,250 megawatts potential in northeastern Ontario and the Moose River Basin and the Albany Basin. The Jackfish project just north of Lake Nipigon has got 78 megs. We've got unlimited potential to generate wind from Hudson's Bay and James Bay. And with that, we want to have an overarching agreement very similar to that's based on the revenue streams associated with Bay James that have led to incredibly prosperous and vibrant and healthy communities. We have that opportunity here in Northern Ontario. We have the power lines up to Attawapiskat. The power lines go up to Musselwhite. That's the same latitudes across through the Ring of Fire. You can it's very easy to envision these corridors of power, and with the excess power, we'll be able to sell the power to the States. The U.S. needs 10 times more energy than we have. And we have the ability to provide that energy from sources in Northern Ontario. We're a world leader in nuclear technology, and that is the cleanest technology that's there. It's all about our opportunity. It's all about what we have to offer here in Northern Ontario. And Thunder Bay will be the center of that. It'll be good for every single community in the north, including the Indigenous communities. The communities that have participated in development, and TTN is a real good example of that, they had 78% unemployment prior to participating in development. Now, they've got zero unemployment. They're an incredible partner for Canada Nickel. They will have their own transmission lines. They're an incredible progressive community. So we set the table. We've done some things. We've got some dry stats to talk about what we've done in fact, about the size of the economy. The mining sector contributes $13.4 billion to Ontario's GDP. We're first in mineral exploration in Canada, $952 million. We've got 221 critical minerals exploration programs in place right now, and that's an 18% increase from last year. We have, when we talk about the junior exploration program, it's fully subscribed. We've got 133 projects right now that we're contributing $19.4 million in those. We have the Innovation Fund that we've got $15 million in place. Our objective is to secure the supply chain. But there's only so much a government can do. There's only so much a government can do. There's a number of you that are sitting here, obviously you're junior companies, and you can't get financing. You can't get financing because there is no liquidity in those markets. One of our objectives with this ministry is to ensure that gets changed. And we're working on that right now. Short selling is incredibly important. With mature companies, shorts really depend on the PE ratio, really. Juniors have a lot of P, price, but there is no earnings. So every positive announcement, and we have many across Northern Ontario that are outstanding. You get a blip on the price, the shorts come in, and it really drives them to their knees. And naked shorts should be and will be illegal. Illegal. That's incredibly, we'll change that. Because without mobilizing capital, there is absolutely no way a junior company can succeed. You can't generate the momentum to ensure that you can finance the development of these projects. And no government by themselves can do this. And quite frankly, as a friend said to me one time, Eric Sprott can't finance every single project. We have a problem. We've got to be able to mobilize capital for the junior sector. We acknowledge that. There's lots of work to do in permitting. There's lots of work to make sure that we're more successful than we have been. But make no mistake about this. This is our destiny. We have to get this done. It's not only important to all the communities in Northern Ontario and Ontario, it's important for the Western democracies. Because if other countries control critical minerals and rare earths, They will control not only the mining community, but they'll control space technology. And we can't afford that. This is our time. The time is now. This is our time. Mining is central to achieving our destiny. And I believe in our destiny, and I believe in the greatness in Northern Ontario. You're all a big part of this right now. Let's make it happen. Thank you.